Welcome to the Texas High School Football Coaches Show on Lone Star Gridiron. I'm Chris Daly, and it's my belief that the men that make up the fraternity of Texas high school football coaches are much more than a bunch of thick-necked guys with whistles. They do so much more than teach technique and the X's and O's of football. They take young boys and change them into young men of character. They get kids to believe in themselves, to trust others, and to put others ahead of themselves. Texas high school football coaches are unique in how they impact the lives of these athletes as well as the generations those kids touch. In this show, I sit down with a different Texas high school football coach each time and learn about them. Not their record, not their on-field accomplishments, but who they are and what they believe and what it means to be part of the greatest sport in the greatest state. Hey everybody, welcome back to Season 5 of the Lone Star Gridiron Texas High School Football Coaches Show. I'm your host, Chris Daly, and yes, 5 seasons. How cool is that? For the last 18 years, Lone Star Gridiron has brought you the absolute best in Texas high school football news and information. And I have to tell you, as I say all the time, this is probably the favorite thing I do because I get to talk with so many of these great coaches, and we have a great lineup this season as usual. We're talking coaches like Cornell Thompson, Chris Ketting, Jeff Dykus, Daryl Barbe, Drew Sanders, and so many more. Each and every week for 26 weeks during the off season, you and I get to share some time with some of these great Texas high school football coaches. And today, I want to honor those people who made it possible. We're talking about the sponsors and title sponsor of the Lone Star Gridiron Texas High School Football Coaches Show. For the second year in a row, Mecca Sportswear is returning as the title sponsor. So I will sit down with Cheri Armstrong, talk about her company a little bit. But also, we'll get to introduce you to Dr. Michael Hutchison from Power Plus Mouth Guards. I had a great conversation with him as well. Please do me a favor and give these guys a listen. Support them because they do so much to support Texas high school football. You're listening to the LSG Sports Network, the authority on Texas high school football.
Did you play Texas high school football? If you did, you're part of an elite group, the Brotherhood of Texas High School Football. All football players, past and present, who have ever suited up in the Lone Star State are eligible. Go to LoneStarGridiron.com/brotherhood. And thank you for the part you played in the greatest sport in the greatest state. All right, everybody join me in welcoming Cheri Armstrong from Mecca Sportswear, our title sponsor for the Lone Star Gridiron Texas High School Football Coaches Show this year. Cheri, how are you doing?
Chris, I'm doing fine, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
We appreciate you. If you could, first I want to thank you for helping share these stories of these great men and the effects they have on the community, the kids. I just want to thank you so much for helping make this happen.
Well, Chris, it's always been important to me since I started the business to make monumental moments in kids' lives, and it starts with coaches. And so over the years, we have had just an incredible amount of customers who were coaches that I was really impressed with the investment that they had chosen to make in these kids' lives.
Nice. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about Mecca Sportswear and what it is you provide for schools and coaches and kids.
Well, I am a Mecca Sportswear representative, and I started out years ago as a single mom. I was originally from Kansas, and my first husband had moved down here and taken a job, and shortly after that, he had chosen to go, and I was left here with 2 kids. They were 3 and 5, And so I had decided that instead of moving back to where I originally came from, which was Kansas, I would stay here and just raise my family in Texas because it was just a great state, and I love the people. And so I approached some people back then and had the thought of selling leather jackets in South Central Texas in 100-degree weather, and I thought that would never be a possibility, but 35 years later, our family is still doing the same thing, and we're really grateful to have this business, and it's all been because of coaches that believed in me when I first began and have continued to be loyal customers over the years and, give back to us by letting us be their sole provider for letter jackets in the schools. And
nice.
So it's been a great journey.
Well, I tell you what, use this opportunity to give a little love to some of your clients. If you could call out some of the schools that are current customers or past customers, so people can get an idea of the scope of what it is you do.
Well, years ago we started out as some of my faithful customers were Frank Arnold and D.W. Rutledge from Judson High School. I started out then when they had that championship in 1983. Mm-hmm. Some of the kids that I measured back then during those years were Mark Soto, Michael Jinks, along with in the Northeast District, we had the Peterson brothers that their dad was a coach at Madison. Jim Streety was a customer of ours. Jerry Comlander was the AD. Gaylord Finley, who's long since passed, but he was one of my very first customers that gave me an opportunity. I actually that day, when going to measure those kids, took my 3-year-old son in and sat him in with the secretary and measured his football team. And so it's just been a great opportunity over the years, finding men that wanted to help outside of just winning football games. It was about winning in life. And so whether it was giving me business as a vendor and helping our family or investing in the lives of a kid that was on their team, it's really been a wonderful opportunity to see those things. D.W. Rutledge had a incredible program, and it not only with his kids, but with his coaches. And the way that he invested in his coaches as men, some of them today are in incredible places. They've had great jobs, and his athletes have gone on to do bigger and better things, and they all really credit it to men like D.W. Rutledge, Frank Arnold, other coaches like that.
Yeah, one of the things that I instantly loved about you after I met you was your connection with the Texas high school coaching world. I could name any coach almost, and you go, oh, yeah, I knew him, or I measured him for a jacket. I mean, how did you get that connected to this community?
Well, again, back when the Ed Frank Clinic was over off of Austin Highway, I went to my first clinic there, and I was scared. I was 25 years old, and you had Mr. Franca, and you had Rodney Hayden, and you had Jimmy Streety, and some other great men who were part of that organization, and they knew what I was doing and what my plan was, and so they sort of just let me follow around. One of the men who's been very instrumental in my life have been John Paul Sr. He was never a customer. He was one of the owners of the San Angelo Clinic. And I remember the first year I tried to get into their clinic, and they had a waiting list. But Mike Martin had told me, you can come and just be a guest. So I went out and made friends with several of the vendors. And one of the vendors had said, where's your booth? And I said, well, I'm just visiting. I'm on the waiting list. So he grabbed a roll of masking tape and marked out a 12-inch square, and he said, okay, there's Mecca's booth right there. You stand there, and we will lead everybody to Mecca's booth. And John Paul came by and saw that and said, what are you doing standing here? I said, well, here's my booth. And he goes, oh, darling, we need to get you a bigger booth than this. We'll make sure you're on the list next year. And so since that time, every year I'd go to that clinic, and John Paul and Jim Hess and even Wade Phillips, they would all just do a great job of making sure I was taken care of. And I really felt like that was God giving me favor. And in doing so, I was able to meet some incredible men. And I would say that most of the people that I know throughout this state, I've met through a clinic of some sort. And although they didn't give me business, I've continued to have a wonderful friendship, networking relationship with them. And we've just sort of helped one another.
Nice. I love that. So let's talk about these letter jackets. Okay, so if a coach is being approached by a couple different vendors, what makes Mecca different from some of the other ones that are put in front of them?
Well, there are several letter jacket companies that someone can purchase from, but our company is different because, number one, our products are made in the USA.
Nice.
And number two, we focus on taking all of the responsibilities from the coaches. All they need to do is provide a list for us. And we work real closely with the parents and the kids. And so how we make a difference is we make it a monumental moment in a kid's life, whether it be talking to the student or athlete at the school or talking to the parents on the phone. It's just not about collecting the money that they owe us for their patches, but we take a real interest in their accomplishments. And that sets us apart because we're a family-owned business. We've been in business for over 35 years, and it's about making monumental moments.
Nice. I love that. And I love the fact that you take any of the work out of the coach's hands and take care of things like that. That's got to be just a huge time saving for the coach.
Well, I think if you were to talk to our customers, our clients, that would be the number one thing that our coaches would tell you is that they never hear about us. They never have to deal with it.
Right.
Once they have the kids show up, it's all taken care of. And, that's good and that's bad because the good part is if they never hear from you, they know that you're doing a really good job, but some tend to forget how well a job you're doing. And so when another vendor comes in and offers them something different, they soon learn that it's not the same as it was when they were working with Mecca Sportswear.
Right, definitely. So how can people who are interested, how can they get in touch with you or the company?
Well, Chris, like I said, we have sales representatives all throughout the state of Texas. Our family, Billy, who is my son, he and I both take care of the South Central Texas area, and then we have reps in other parts of the state. And I can guarantee that the people that are taking care of you in the other parts of the state will do just as good a job as we do, because there's just an expectation when it comes to giving service and customer service to the coaches here in Texas. And they can call us at our number at 210-651-6592, and we will put them in contact with their local representatives.
Nice. So that's 210-651-6592, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Excellent. Again, I want to thank you for doing so much for the sport of high school football and specifically for these coaches. And that's why I think it's such a good fit with Mecca Sportswear with this show, because that is the whole focus.
Well, Chris, when you had told me that what this program was going to be about, that's when I decided that, yes, I wanted to be a part of this, because I am all about giving back, especially about this stage of my life, whether it be to the San Antonio Quarterback Club, which I'm a board member of, or Fellowship of Christian Athletes, which I'm a board member of. Both of those organizations have either invested in coaches or kids. And, if I could quote Devil Sweeney, I heard him say this, that it's really not so much about the game of winning or losing as it is about the hearts and souls of these young people on our team. And that's how I feel, and my family feels about the coaching industry. I've been in it 35 years, and there wasn't one time that I've been mistreated, disrespected, and in an industry where the media can come in and say a lot of negative things about schools or athletics. I really thank God for the athletic programs in Texas, because it has not only helped kids, but it's made a great opportunity for families to be involved, and it's given an opportunity for coaches to have a purpose. So thank you again for giving me this opportunity.
You're quite welcome, and thank you for the part you play in it. I appreciate it. All right, everybody, join me in welcoming Dr. Michael Hutchison to the show. How are you doing?
Everything's great today. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, you bet. And I have to thank you, and the coaches listening will have to thank you for being a sponsor of this show. What we like to do in the first episode of the season is talk with our sponsors. Dr. Hutchison, can you give me a little idea about your background? I've looked in and I saw you're into neuromuscular dentistry. What the heck is that?
Well, that is an area of discipline that deals with how the jaw fits together with the skull and the associated muscles and nerves, which is what really basically drew me to figure out how to make a physiologic mouth guard. So this is what brought me to this point. We deal a lot with TMJ, migraine, headache, pain patients, and we help people overcome that malady, which is very debilitating.
So now a lot of people, when you hear concussion, you think, oh, they don't have good helmets or they take too many hits. The idea of your jaw alignment being involved in that in any way just is kind of foreign. So kind of explain that.
Well, I mean, you can think that, when you're dealing with a brain injury that, logically thinking that the kind of thought process we all have is that somehow the brain got physically injured by some sort of event, some sort of trauma to the actual part of the skull that holds the brain in place, and the brain got shaken around inside the skull. That's kind of what the logical thinking is. But we know from military that just a blast of energy creates concussions. The person doesn't even have to be touched by anything. It's just that force that comes across. And when we look at how the jaw relates to it, jaw attaches by muscles and ligaments to the bottom of the skull. There's a bone called the sphenoid bone, and like a butterfly, and each joint sits in that little bone, and the brain sits kind of right on top of it. So when you receive a blow to the jaw or the mandible, that force gets translated up to the brain, unless you set it in its perfect physiologic jaw position, which then does not allow that force to jump across the gap between the ball and the socket. So it has to go somewhere else, and it gets dissipated away from the brain. And that's the concept of what physiologic jaw position does in relation to dropping the concussion rate. Because, as you know, especially in football, the jaw is not protected in any way. In fact, made worse by the chin strap that holds the helmet on. holding that jaw up against the bone-to-bone relationship. So when you receive a blow in that direction, where the jaw can conduct that force, it just gets translated right up to the brain. So this is how the jaw participates in concussions, and I feel that it's about 20%, because for the last 5 decades, the concussion rate has been about the same, and that's been about 20% unreported and reported. And we've changed the helmets, we've done everything we can, but it just stays the same. The only thing that we haven't done is change the mouth guard. We haven't changed the relationship between the jaw and the skull. So that's why we keep getting the same results after year of concussions. And so if you put the jaw in that physiologic jaw position, you drop that concussion rate down to 0.2%.
So when I was growing up playing football, we had these basically 99-cent mouth guards that you go home, you boil them, you stick them in your mouth, and that was it. So that doesn't put your jaw in the right position?
No, because it turns out that 95 to 98% of us, through genetics and everything that's associated with us growing up, nutrition and all that, we all have an occlusion or bite that isn't optimal. And it seems like that's where some of our deficiency ends up. Through the studies, we've found that most people, their bite isn't in physiologic rest position. The only way that you can get that is by swallowing. So if you take that concept and extrapolate it over to the mouth guards that are being worn, first of all, they were invented and developed in 1950. So the concept back then came about because some Notre Dame players were breaking their teeth playing football, and so the American Dental Association came up with a mouth guard that would protect you from breaking your teeth. So here we are 70 years later, and it's the same concept, the same technology. So if you're interested in just keeping your teeth from breaking, 99 cents is the mouth guard you should use, because all the rest of them are exactly the same as that 99 cent, and that's all you really need. But here's the kicker. Well, part of the problem is we call vertical dimension. That's the distance or height of your bite. And so everybody has a different height. But the zone of physiologic jaw position is pretty much a constant. So you may have too little of a height. So you might be biting down too much. Let's say you're biting down 10 millimeters too much. Then your mouth guard needs to be 10 millimeters thick to get you back to that physiologic jaw position, which is the safest and neurologically the best jaw position. If you have a perfect bite, you don't need very much. You just need some material to keep you from breaking your teeth. So your mouth guard should be about a millimeter or two thick to keep you in that zone. But the problem is that all manufacturers with mouth guards make their mouth guard one thickness for every person. So therefore, it's just a tooth protector. It's not. It doesn't do anything for you, and in a matter of fact, it makes you worse when it comes to strength and balance if you are not open enough or too open from that material. For example, I'm going to go out, be bold, and say that the worst mouth guard that could ever be worn for performance and safety is a pacifier mouth guard. That thing is way too thick. It opens you way too much. It puts your jaw into a relationship that translates G-forces. It makes you so you can't breathe. So your oxygen intake is greatly diminished. And for football or any other sport, you can't talk. So It's just one of those things that gets into be a fad, and people don't know that it diminishes their strength, their balance, their oxygen intake, and keeps them and puts them more susceptible to a concussion.
And so you developed the Power Plus mouth guard, and talk about that transition, how you came up with that.
Well, in 2000, I was practicing. Well, I still am, but I started really working with neuromuscular dentistry. I started working with many TMJ patients with headaches, migraines, and neck problems. And when I got them stabilized, their pain went away. Many of them would come to me and say, something really strange has happened. I have more energy. I don't want to take a nap in the afternoon. I feel stronger. There's, some of the housewives would say, I got these boxes that I schlep around, and I feel like I can move them because I don't know. Do you know anything about that? And doing the research, I found that there was some evidence that physiologic jaw position gave you increase in strength. And so I started testing it. And it just so happened that there was a guy in town. He was a police chief and the fire chief, and he was a bench press power lifter on the USA bench press team. And he had won a national championship lifting 398 pounds bench press in the over 65-year-old category, and said that he wanted to go to Prague and represent the United States and break the world record. And he was working really hard to do it, but he's never lifted more than 398 pounds. And so out of faith, I called him up and said, I can get you your world record. I didn't know if I could or not, but I just had faith that I could, knowing the principles. And so he came over, I made him a physiologic mouth guard. He went out that night and lifted 455 pounds, got scared and quit, but felt like he could do more. And so I asked him for his weightlifting logs, and for the next 6 weeks he got up to 525 pounds, went over to Prague, lifted 455 pounds and broke the world record, and it stood for 10 years. So I knew that there was something about physiologic jaw position that could benefit everybody, and at the time it was strength. And as time went on, I took some more tests from people. I had 7 St. Louis Blues players that I made a mouth guard for, and this was the first inkling that it had anything to do with concussions. None of those guys had a concussion, and all of them told me that they had and the stats proved that they had the best seasons that they've ever had. And then, fast forward to like the next year, my son, I went down to the Seattle Mariners training camp because one of their AAA coaches had been using it, biking, and he just really thought it was great. And I didn't get much headway with them, but I came back knowing that I needed data really to make things happen. And so I went to my son's 8th grade football coach, and I had a friend here that's an orthodontist, and his son played for a Catholic high school. So those two schools, I've made physiologic mouth guards for all those boys for 6 years through senior year. And not one of those 110 boys had a concussion in 6 years. So I knew that something with physiologic jaw position had something to do with concussion mitigation. And meanwhile, during that time, Wayne State University's biomedical engineering department caught wind of it and wanted to test it for strength, and did, and wrote a paper that they published and presented internationally, showing a 16.8% increase in strength when the subject is placed in physiologic jaw position. So that was when I sent the patent in 2009, and I was awarded a patent in Mexico, Canada, and the United States in 2015 for physiologic jaw position. And since then, I've kept track of concussions over the time up until this last season. We've had 1,500 teams in California, or 1,500 subjects, students, athletes in California and Texas with 0 concussions happening, and we've had 5,500 athletes over the years with 9 concussions total. So that's a 2.2% concussion rate when you put somebody in their physiologic jaw position. And that's not just football. That's every sport, from hockey to soccer to girls basketball to, I just had a boxer who won a light heavyweight bout in Atlantic City last Saturday wearing a physiologic jaw position.
Nice. So let me ask you a question. From my understanding, and this is total layman's point of view, I'm hearing that the thickness of the mouth guard puts you in the correct position. Is that something, when you get it, you have to go to a dentist and get somebody to measure something? How is that determined?
No, and that's a really good point, because when I came to the determination that there was scientific proof that physiologic jaw position was beneficial in many ways, I wanted to have a way that you could order it and any kid could follow the directions and reach physiologic jaw position on their own. And so developed a technique, and it's basically swallowing puts your jaw in that physiologic jaw position, because your autonomic nervous system takes over when you swallow.
Nice.
And positions your own personal jaw through its muscles and neurology into that physiologic jaw position while the warm plastic is cooling down to body temperature. And once it's set, then you're always in the physiologic jaw position. You're never out of it. And that's the important thing, because if you don't have it, then when you swallow 2,500 times a day, and you swallow a lot more when you're out playing football, and every time that you swallow, then your jaw goes or you clench your teeth on your 99-cent mouth guard, you're going to be out of that zone like a big rubber band is holding you back. And you're rolling your joint back up against the skull, so if you happen to get hit right, there goes the G-forces up to your brain. So it's very easy to do, but it's not a situation where you just throw it in the hot water, put it in your mouth, and bite down as hard as you can. That's not what you want to do. You want to swallow. And you have to have the right thickness, because and that's where Power Plus design comes in. So you have to measure yourself, and then you have to add material if you need it. If you don't need it, you don't add the material. You have to have the right thickness for you, and that's really the important thing. Each person has an individual physiologic jaw position.
Got it. So coaches who are now convinced, they say, okay, the science is out there. This will greatly not only reduce the chance of concussions, but increase strength, increase balance, increase all the things they want. How do they get a hold of these mouth guards?
Well, the best way to do it is for a coach or an athletic director is just to go on the website. There's all kinds of information on there, and then there's contact information. And the best way is just to get a hold of us, because we need to find out what you need and what colors and, all those things, and set a package together for a coach or a school district. Individually, people can just, go on and order one, and it'll come right to their house. But for teams, we need to do a little extra work for it. And there's also team prices that for the higher numbers, we give you a little bit of a deal for that. So that's something that you really need to contact us on.
Nice. So what is that website and the phone number to reach you at?
Okay, so the website is powerplusmouthguard.com. That's powerplusmouthguard.com. And the phone number is 231-645-4975.
Sweet. Yeah, I can't recommend enough. And as I talk to coaches, I'm gonna be spreading the news about that because it's pretty exciting. Dr. Hutchison, I want to thank you so much for sitting down and sharing some of your story, but also for sponsoring this show so that coaches can learn from other coaches as well.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to do it. That's the thing that's so important is that new technology comes around, but if you can't find out about it, you don't think it exists. But hopefully this is a great way to get everybody to the knowledge that there is a better way, and this thing must be done because right now kids are having concussions this day in their sports, and it can be prevented.
Sounds good. Well, thanks again.
All right. Have a great day. Thank you.
All right.
Once again, I want to give a big thank you to Cheri Armstrong and Dr. Michael Hutchison for their interviews. And thank you guys for tuning in and hearing these stories. Don't forget, please get out and share this. Share this with anybody you think will find it interesting. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, you name it. Any place podcasts are found. Of course, on LoneStarGridiron.com as well. All right. Until next time, I'm Chris Daly, and we'll see you at the game.